People have been asking me, what is the medicine that is going to help us to come through this time? And what I've been saying is that we at Dimensions are teaching liberatory practice. Liberatory practice is what is helping us, what is helping me to become more resilient at this particular moment, at this particular point, which is really just a moment on the timeline of our ultimate liberation.
Today's guest has been described as an influential African American Orthodox Jewish leader, known for her work in Jewish diversity, inclusion, and equity. Yavilah McCoy, director of Dimensions Educational Company, I think is the full title. Yavilah, you will correct me. Welcome to this edition of M.E.S.H. Did I say the name of your organization properly?
Well, to keep it easy, we say Dimensions Consulting. If you want to say the whole thing, you can say Dimensions Educational Consulting or DEC. But you have us covered by saying Dimensions Consulting. You did well.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give myself an A+ on that one.
Go ahead.
Dimensions. I appreciate the permission. I was going to take it anyway, but that's just me, you know. You said DEC, Dimensions Educational Consulting. So, immediately I thought of DEI. Oops. Nowadays, that's kind of like, for many people, that's kind of like a bad thing to say. It's illegal to think about. If you catch somebody doing like a DEI thing, you got to report them. Talk to me about DEI. What is it? What does it mean? What does it mean to you?
So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, really came through the educational system when people were trying to figure out how to create inclusive classrooms and how to create an educational experience post the trauma we saw in the 60s of young people of color trying to integrate classrooms and needing the support of the federal government to do so. DEI emerged first as multiculturalism. How can we make our classrooms multicultural? How can we do things to help our country to understand itself as multicultural? How can we shift the canon? Over time, as it moved out of just the educational sphere into the broader organizational fabric that we have in the country, it really became a discussion of equity. How are we experiencing ourselves in the workplace? How are we experiencing ourselves in our relationships with coworkers? How are we experiencing ourselves in being hired in ways that either uphold and endorse equity or actually limit its possibilities? So I came into this work really thinking about DEI there was a lot of language and a lot of what I would call at this point jargon around what does it mean to understand and be an equity professional. But our work at Dimensions was really about behavioral work. If we really want to track and chart the experience of equity, you have to ask people and listen hard for what they're saying they have experienced, and then see yourself as accountable in your behavior to start doing, stop doing, or do something differently to help there to be a better outcome that impacts the bottom line. So it wasn't really about categories, and it really was never about identity politics for us. And yet we are living in a time where people have created a binary out of DEI that says it's for some and not for others, that it is a criminal act that is actually prejudicial, that is actually discriminating against members of our country, when the truth is it's actually the opposite. It's how do all of us, including people in this case who we are being told now are being targeted as white people, including those people, how do all of us recover the deepest sense of our collective humanity in relationship? That is what DEI has meant to us at Dimensions, and what I know it has meant across time among the practitioners who have endorsed it.
You use the term collective humanity, and I would imagine that you agree with my thought that those two words don't naturally come together in today's environment. In today's environment, collective doesn't mean what it used to mean. And in fact, if you can only support one kind of person and that means you have to denigrate the other kind of person. Um, where are we going with this? What are your concerns about what's happening now?
The reason why we say that our work is about recovering a deeper sense of our humanity in relationship is because we don't often get to choose what relationships we are in when we are in a relationship to be able to put bread on the table, when we are in a relationship to be able to have housing, when we are in a relationship in order to be able to provide services. We are a team and we have to work together often to be able to uplift the goals we have in society to make society one in which we can all thrive. And so the condition of relationship is already there. What kinds of relationships we want to have bring us into the realm of choice and into the realm of behaviors. What concerns me is that rather than talk about the behaviors that we have the capacity to improve, make better, do differently with one another, we're talking about the categories of human that we are, and how by just being a category, you are subject to a particular experience. And I believe that people are essentially in choice every single day. Part of freedom and part of democracy and part of reaching for equity is to honor and preserve those choices. And if we want to know how to make better choices, we got to listen to the depth and breadth of us around what our choices and their outcomes are actually resulting in right now.
You've also used the term deep listening.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
So what are we're listening, but what are we listening for? Are we listening to hear each other's stories of harm? Possibly, if there is a possibility of healing and repair on the other side. Are we listening to attack one another? Never. Because even if you have experienced harm and you accept that you're speaking to someone and trying to preserve your own and their humanity in telling that story, what you want on the other side is not to replicate more harm. You want them to understand the nature of harm so that they won't do that harm or do the things that cause that harm again. And that is something, a learning experience, a teachable moment between you and the person that you are encountering. When we bring the concept of pain into the equation, often the very first thing that we do is we stop listening. Whether
Uh,
it's pain that you're experiencing yourself, ow, I'm in pain, I can't hear another thing you have to say, I'm trying to deal with this pain,
mhm,
or someone telling you, you've hurt me, and your shoulders go up and your defenses kick in. You don't want to be that person, right? Who's enacted harm on someone else. But the
right.
truth is, if you want to be in a relationship that holds the elevation of your humanity, we've got to be able to listen for both how I may have enacted harm on someone else and to share the stories in which I have been harmed. And I need to be able to share that just for the sake of us all learning how to be with each other differently. So if we focus on our behaviors and we focus on the potential for hope in how we behave and live with one another, anyone can tell a story, anyone can hear a story,
Right.
and everyone can do better.
Everyone. I'm going to focus on that word everyone for just a moment. Because nowadays, everyone in a particular camp, or many of the folks who are seen as everyone in that particular camp, have a particular view. And so everyone gets to be, as you've said before, I mean, it's really sort of a binary existence. You're either this or you're either that. At the beginning of our conversation today, I introduced you as someone who was involved in work that includes uh, the teaching and the support of Jewish diversity. Jewish and diversity for lots of people, what on earth are you talking about? No such thing.
Mhm.
Help me out.
So every group of people has diversity. If I were to talk about the dimensions, which is why our organization is called Dimensions, if I would talk about the dimensions of our humanity, one person would be many things at once. For instance, me, right? I am a Black woman. I am a Jewish woman. I am a woman. I am cisgendered. I am class identified. I am, formally educated. There are all sorts of different things that if I understand what it means to be included or excluded in a group of people based on that identity, I can do better to make sure that more of us who claim and share that identity are able to walk with me through all the doors. Now, the issue of who should be able to walk through a door and who should not, who
Yes.
should be able to experience opportunity and who should not, sometimes doesn't have anything to do with identity at all. It has to do with the ability to share resources or the ability to conserve resources. It has to do with the idea of who should have an opportunity to be able to live and thrive and not just survive life, and who should not, because my understanding of their identity is they haven't worked hard enough, or they haven't put in enough effort, or they don't live in the right place in the world. It's when we start creating hierarchies of value in terms of giving people the choice to live their best life, to have an opportunity to build their best life. I question why people are doing that. Are they doing that because they have fear of not wanting to share, of wanting to conserve resources only for themselves? Or do they have enough courage and hope to believe that when we share, we will all be bettered? And that goes much deeper than just what you see when you look at a person. It's how you were raised to see your own humanity as something that invites you into an opportunity of grace or invites you to be selfish.
The name of your organization, as we said, is Dimensions. Who comes to Dimensions for help?
Mhm. So we offer people an opportunity to be in leadership around liberatory practice. And so if I say who needs liberatory practice, I say we all need liberatory practice, because liberatory practice means thinking, behaving, and living in ways that model, endorse, and support our experience of freedom and liberation. And we need an experience of freedom and liberation to be able to imagine democracy. So when I talk about some women, and I say, you're welcome in the work of Dimensions, they say, well, what do we need to be free from? Aren't we already free? And I say, yes, in 2026, I would love to believe that you are free. But before I say you are, let me ask you a question. How would your life be different if you woke up tomorrow feeling totally untethered and unburdened emotionally, financially, spiritually, sexually? Are you the same woman speaking to me right now? Or are you immediately looking at different opportunities for who you are and what choices you've made to arrive at this point? Liberatory practice is an offering that we make to all people who come to our doors when they want to increase the awareness of things they have learned in systems that cause themselves to be second, cause them to put others ahead, and to think that's normal, to be able to figure out that the only role for me as a Black woman, possibly in a system, is to be the mammy, to be the savior, to be the liberated victim, or to be the revolutionary. And what I do not get to do is to come into a space to arrive, be myself, and flower accordingly. When I say it's about recovering your deepest sense of your humanity in relationship with others, what if we all got to come into a workplace and live that depth and level of our humanity? Our ability to give in a space is 100% intact, and it is not being burdened by assumptions that we're making about how we have to move together, what we have to give, what sacrifices we have to make in order to come through. So it's about, what does it take to be resilient in a space, and not putting the burden of resilience more on some shoulders than it is on others. To give everybody a chance to work hard, to give everybody a chance to be in a space. And when you're leading and you're trying to be in a space and you find yourself
Mhm.
exhausted and tired, which are a lot of the women that I meet, women who you would say they've achieved great success as CEOs, women who are executives, women who have climbed the ladder and arrived at some place. Did they arrive tired? In what condition did they arrive? These are the questions that our programs give people a chance to be able to explore in community with others. And when they lean their head softly on somebody else's shoulder and they
Uh,
hear the same stories that they've denied or silenced or not had space to tell themselves, something opens up in their leadership and they're able to lead differently. And one of the things that they're able to lead on is that it is my legacy and birthright, not just to survive my life, but to thrive in it. To believe that from the day I was born, I was valuable. To believe that if I never did another thing, if I never did one more thing, that value, that beauty, that essence of who I was born in the world to be, who I was born in the world to be able to serve through, that all of that remains intact, and that I walk through the world with that as part of what's on my shoulders, as a cape, not as a burden.
So if I am a leader in
Mhm.
my company in today's environment, where it's sort of like not really legal to be celebratory of other, whatever other is, and nowadays mostly other is everything. Do I come to you? Do I come to Dimensions as an individual, as an organization? How do I reach out to Dimensions for help?
The way you reach us, and the way many people reach us, is that this is a professional development opportunity. If people would like to learn liberatory practice to deepen their leadership, it's a professional development gift to be able to teach a leader to hold the depth and breadth of the humanity of all people that come into their leadership purview, to be able to work with their staff, to be able to manage differently, to be able to build relationships with communities differently, doesn't require that you come from any one community,
Right.
but your lived experience coming from particular communities will give you a certain stance and perspective that allows you to understand what's needed. And that is a gift. So people find us when they want to lead from a place that upholds the principles and values of freedom. And who in our country does not need to uphold the principles and values of freedom and democracy in this moment, and to know how to integrate that well in how we're running companies and how we're leading and how we're forming relationships with people. I actually am welcoming everyone whose lived experience, identity, and culture has taught them something about that to come to our programs and to help us to learn more and be better. And so, no, this is not a discriminatory act to be able to say that people who have lived heritages and communities of color know a little bit of something about what I'm talking about. They are welcome, but so are white women who need to learn the same thing. And they have a program. We have a program for white women leaders who want to learn liberatory practice as well. So we serve all.
Tell me a little bit more about the different programs you have. You have one for white women, you have one for persons of color. What about men?
So I think we're best situated to serve in ways in which we have learned a lot and ways in which we have wisdom to share. And so, because I am a woman, I have learned very particular things at the intersection of race, religion, and gender and culture. And because that is my area of expertise, I have gathered folks to be able to be in relationship with the canon of resources that we've created, who can speak similarly to that, but also who can feel that they are being benefited by the particular
Mm,
tools that we have put
mhm.
together. So men are not excluded from our work. In fact, we learn more in conversation with men about what we are learning. But in order to really hone and get good at any area of expertise, you often start with folks who share that expertise, who have a
Right,
shared experience with you, so that
right.
you can continue to develop what you've learned into what I call wisdom that can preach forward. So, are men benefiting every day from women being clear and centered on what liberatory practice looks like in their leadership lives? Absolutely. And I welcome the conversations about how they're being benefited into our organization all the time.
You know, I could absolutely talk to you for hours, but not gonna do that. We are gonna just maybe we'll put a comma on today's conversation, semicolon, something or other, because I'd love to have you back again at some point. For those who would like to be in touch and learn more about Dimensions Consulting, where should they go? What should they look for?
So find us at www.dimensionsedc.com. There's a resource page on our website that helps you to be able to see. We have a 30-day liberatory practice challenge that people can actually engage in, which is a series of videos. There are various resources that you can download. You can be in touch also through our website to request what we call a one-on-one, where we can talk to you and have an interview and hear a little bit more about what your needs and concerns are. We don't take every client. We take clients that are in alignment with the work of liberatory practice that we like to do and at a stage of readiness to be able to incorporate it. So I believe the beginning of bringing a liberatory practice curriculum into your space, or engaging in a liberatory practice coaching model, or engaging in a liberatory practice team training begins with a conversation. And so you would reach out to the organization, someone would set up a conversation with me and my staff team, and then we would see from there what liberatory practice holds for all of us.
So once again, can you share that web address with us?
www.dimensions, plural, edc.com.
Terrific. Thank you again so much for joining us today. I absolutely appreciate the work that you're doing. And folks, I thank you for joining us today on this edition of M.E.S.H. I'm hopeful that you will like, subscribe, and share this conversation with someone you care about. And I will see you next week. You take care.